Since tonight is the first night of the Wilson family staying at Thompson, everyone has a very strong sense of ritual in their hearts. The old Mrs. Wilson summoned everyone to the living room and sat on the luxurious European-style sofa. The Lady Wilson seemed to have found the aura of the Wilson family group. She has a smile on her face, but there is no loss of majesty in this smile. After looking at everyone, she said unhurriedly, "Today is a staged victory for us. Although the Wilson group has not yet landed ashore, our family is now ashore. Just this point. It's worth celebrating." Everyone nodded their heads, except for Horia's ugly expression. Everyone else was excited. Horia had already felt the roll of seafood at this time, and the itch made her restless. Old Mrs. Wilson glanced at her, and said with a bit of disgust in her expression, "Horia, you are so old. What are you always doing with pupa like a maggot?" Horia's expression is very ugly. The Lady Wilson is really hurt when she speaks, pupa like a maggot? Is there such a description of a daughter-in-law? However, she didn't dare to have any disobedience to the Lady Wilson, so she had to apologize and said, "I'm sorry, Mom. My stomach is a little uncomfortable." The old Mrs. Wilson gave her a look and said, "I see you. You have suffered too much in the black coal kiln. When you ate seafood hot pot just now, you ate as much as if you were hungry for 3 years. How could the stomach stand it?" Horia was even more depressed, but she could only honestly nod her head and said, "Mom, you are right." Mrs. Wilson was too lazy to talk to her anymore and continued, "Since our family has already landed, the next step is to let the Wilson group go ashore. After President Wu puts the money on the company's account, the Wilson group will resume normal operation." Then, she looked at Noah and said, "Noah, when the group resumes operations, you will become the business manager and will be responsible for negotiating and cooperation." Noah nodded. "Okay, Mom, I know, I will give my all." Mrs. Wilson nodded slightly with satisfaction, and then looked at Harold aside. "Harold, you will be the director of the Wilson Group from now on, so you must put your slouchy look away from me. Don't let people watch the jokes. Especially not let Claire read the jokes, understand?" Harold hurriedly said, "I know, Grandma." The old Mrs. Wilson looked at Wendy again. "Wendy, you are young and beautiful. When you were with Gerald before, you knew how to play every day, and you have to do things for the group in the future. I think you will be the Wilson Family Group's public relations manager responsible for market and customer public relations." Wendy nodded obediently. "Good, Grandma, I listen to you." "Yeah," the old Mrs. Wilson said with satisfaction. "You all have to give me the spirit of 12 points. It is not easy for our Wilson family to have this opportunity today. We must not miss this great opportunity for development. Do you understand everything?" "Understood." Everyone responded with impassioned attitudes. Noah hurriedly said, "Mom, arrange a job for Horia?" Old Mrs. Wilson snorted and said, "Horia will stay at home to do housework, and there must always be one person at home to manage life." After finishing speaking, before Horia expressed her position, she stood up and said, "Okay, so be it. I'm going upstairs to sleep, so please rest early." Harold and Wendy had long been eager to return to their rooms and had a good time. After all, the decoration style and standard of the house is very high. Much better than the room they lived in before. So after the Lady Wilson left, the two got up one after another and went back to their respective rooms. Noah looked at his wife, and suddenly had the idea of keeping the waves with her again, so he hurriedly said, "Wife, let's go back to the room and rest." Horia felt more and more itchy and upset, but she had no other way to deal with this night. Even if she wants to go to the hospital, she doesn't have money. She has to wait for the coffee machine to be sold tomorrow. No way, she could only get up and go back to the second-floor room with Noah. As soon as he entered the huge and luxurious master bedroom on the second floor, Noah couldn't wait, and muttered, "My wife, I want to talk to you tonight." Horia was shocked when she heard it, and while struggling to get rid of it, she said, "Forget it today, let's rest, you are tired." Noah pleaded, "Don't be like that, wife." Horia felt extremely uncomfortable at this time, and she blurted out, "If you say no, it won't work. Today, we two will sleep on a bed alone." Although Noah was very depressed, seeing his wife's emotions was so excited, he couldn't force it, so he had no choice but to agree. The two were lying on the bed. Noah was still trying to persuade Horiah, but Horiah's attitude was very determined. In desperation, Noah fell asleep. But Horiah, who was lying next to him, could not fall asleep, tossing and turning. The itching of scratching her heart and liver made her feel extremely uncomfortable, and her heart became more flustered, feeling as if she had really gotten the disease. She was thinking about going to the hospital tomorrow to check it carefully, and at the same time worried that her husband would be infected because of her. Charlie kept thinking about preparing a vegetable garden for his wife to pick. Claire was still looking forward to tomorrow's picking trip until she went to bed. She thought her husband would take her to a vegetable and fruit base in the suburbs. But she never dreamed that her husband, Charlie, the mad devil, was already preparing to create a unique vegetable garden for her in the yard tonight.